The following program does not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Reality Radio 101, its advertisers and sponsors, or its listening audience. Listener discretion is advised. Good afternoon and welcome to the Liquid Green Health Show with your hosts Fred and Janet Cox right here on Reality Radio 101. To get on board right now, send us an email. Our email address is liquidgreenhealthshow@gmail.com. And now, ladies and gentlemen, right to your hosts of the Liquid Green Health Show, Fred and Janet Cox.
And we are here. We are right here, folks. Good afternoon and welcome to the Liquid Green Health Show. A warm greeting to all of our listeners and viewers joining us from across Canada, the United States, and around the globe. Yes, in fact, we are the Coxes, and your invitation into your personal space is genuinely appreciated. Every Sunday at this hour, we commit to providing information in an edutainment and engaging format, and hopefully it will guide you towards a healthier lifestyle. So thank you once again for being an integral part of this enriching journey with us. Folks, we want to remind you to please feel free to send those emails. Let them keep coming in. You can send them to liquidgreenhealthshow@gmail.com. And of course, please let us know where you are tuning in from. Our show today is proudly sponsored by Liquid Green Products, creators of Eco Superior Green Cleaning Products for your home, your office, your car, and pets. And of course, if you're tired of cleaning products that make you sneeze, cough, or may force you to leave the room until the fumes dissipate, you need to take a look at Liquid Green Products. Just visit our website at liquidgreenproducts.com and use the promo code LGHS101. And of course, you will enjoy a wonderful discount on any one of the items. That's LGHS101 at liquidgreenproducts.com.
And of course, before you move on, I'm hoping that within the next 2 weeks, we're going to be able to make a really fantastic announcement.
Yes. Yeah, just give it some
that
time.
Liquid Green will be in one of the more major locations, and we're hoping to tell you that in the next week or two.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
We're feeling very happy.
We're feeling very happy about that. Folks, I have to make a disclaimer. I got to let you know that in order to make this show, what it is, we have to let you know that we are not medical professionals or experts, not exports, experts in any of the subjects we discuss. Our role is mainly to share research information, and we really hope that it may contribute to your journey towards a healthier lifestyle. Please always consult with qualified professionals for personalized advice on anything that has to do with your health.
Yes. And Frederick, we try as much as possible. We do the show on our own, and sometimes we try to invite guests.
Yes.
And, we have had comments that, we tend to have so many Black guests on our show. And to be honest with you, it is true we have had, but it's not necessarily for lack of trying either. So it's just a matter of who can you invite and who will accept the invitation.
Yeah, who agrees to come on.
Because I know we've tried non-Black in terms of dentists, in terms of endocrinologists, right? In terms of chiropractor.
We've tried.
So we'll
mental health. We've tried. Okay.
Yes.
This is February month, and as you know, February is Black History Month, right? Every February on the third Monday, which is tomorrow, right? Canada participates in Black History Month events and festivities that honor the legacy of Black people in Canada and their communities. So there's lots of activities that's going on
That is
right across Canada.
And that's a reason I actually resent Black History Month because there are so many fantastic things.
And it's all
shows,
into February.
And everybody's trying to get it in February.
Yeah.
And you miss so much of it. Thank heavens nowadays for Zoom and virtual shows that we can take in so many. But it should. I almost wish they would cancel it and just say like the federal government.
Spread it out.
Not federal, the provincial government is now making Black History a part.
Yeah, compulsory for
the grade 7, 8, and grade 10 curriculum, which is a good thing.
Now the theme for the 2024 theme for Black History Month is Black Excellence, a heritage to celebrate and a future to build. This theme celebrates the rich past and present contributions and accomplishments of Black people in Canada while aspiring to embrace new opportunities for the future. The theme aligns with the 10th year of the International Decade for People of African Descent and recognizes that people of African descent represents a distinct group whose human rights must be protected and promoted. So no matter where you live or what culture you're a part of, we invite all Canadians to learn more about Black Canadian communities and how they continue to help shape the Canadian history.
Good to know.
Right.
Good to know.
Also, the third Monday, again, which is tomorrow in the month of February, in New Brunswick, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia will be observed as a regular statutory holiday, a regional statutory, not a federal, not a national statutory holiday, right? This started way back in 1990. And the purpose is to emphasize the importance of family values.
Okay.
So tomorrow,
is that different from Family Day that we have here in Ontario?
It's the same thing.
Okay.
It's the same thing. So here in Ontario, we call it Family Day. Other provinces that celebrate it, they have different names for it, but it's the same thing. All right. Now, today's show, we have a wonderful topic. And this was prompted by an email that we got from a listener by the name of Cameron. And Cameron, in that email, he says, the topic may be for your show. A lot of people are on low sodium diet due to a number of various health reasons. How do you, if anything, get rid of excess sodium from purchased packaged foods? For instance, packaged chicken, turkey, ham, etc. Is there a way? And he ends off by saying, thanks. Well,
so
Cam,
we hope Cam is listening today because we took this to heart and we really like to interact with the audience, right? With our listening audience.
Yeah.
And so when topics like this come on, it's like, hey, that's a really excellent thing to research. So we have done that.
And after we started researching, we really realized.
We learned a lot. I learned
a lot to really realize how important salt is.
If you have too much or if you have too little, right?
And so our topic today, folks, is salt.
And we have to say, if we're talking about salt, we're really talking about sodium because salt is sodium chloride. Yeah. And so when people think salt, we're thinking about table salt.
Yeah.
So there is a distinction between just the table salt, and we'll talk about the distinction later.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out, that salt is really the sodium.
It's a combination.
The conversation is sodium.
Right.
Right? Okay.
A combination of chloride and sodium. So the big question is, what is salt, right? It is sodium chloride. It is one of the most abundant minerals on Earth.
As a matter of fact, abundant minerals on Earth, what they say, it's about 100 pounds of sea salt for every 1 ton of ocean.
Say that again.
100 pounds of salt for every ton of ocean. So if you had 1 ton of ocean water, then you'd have 100 pounds of salt.
Wow, that's a hell of a lot of salt.
It is the most abundant
we could never run
on
out
the
of salt,
planet.
right?
Yeah.
And it is used for everything. It is used to flavor food. It acts as a preservative, and in all unprocessed foods, you will find, some form of sodium. Everything from, fruits, veggies, nuts, meats, whole grains, they all have some kind of sodium in it. Salt is essential for good health, as it helps our muscles to relax and contract and aid with nerve impulses. That is something I experienced personally, and I'll tell you a little later, or maybe I can tell it now. You remember there was a time when we used to drink a lot of
reverse
osmosis water. A lot of it, that because we figure, okay, it's better than the tap water, so let's use it. And over a period of time from drinking it, I suddenly realized I was getting a lot of cramp, muscle cramps in my legs and stuff, and I couldn't figure out what it was.
So now you're assuming
I think so after I went to the doctor asked me what type of water I'm using. And I told him, and he said, too much of it, right? Because the reverse osmosis, it removes everything from the water. So you're basically drinking kind of a semi-dead water, and the body needs the sodium. So salt, that's my experience, right? Salt deals with extracellular fluids. Example, everything outside of the cells that is liquid, salt deals with that. It also balances minerals and the water we take.
Right. So like we talk about salt, but there are certain minerals in our body, and salt is probably, so I don't know if it's number one, but it's important because the first one would be calcium. And we know what they say about calcium is that it's the dominant mineral, and that looks after everything solid, the solid tissue in the body. That's calcium. Then there's also potassium. And what potassium does, it looks after the cells within our intracellular compartments. And then we have sodium, which is everything outside the cell, the extracellular fluids. So within the bloodstream and everything, as you mentioned before, that is not within the cell, it's forms part of the liquid makeup of the body. That's where sodium is important.
That's why sodium is so important.
It helps to regulate blood fluids.
So
that's basically it.
When you hear, when the first thing you tell people you're taking too much salt, the first thing they think about is how bad salt is. The first thing that comes to their mind, it's high blood pressure. Too much salt is going to cause high blood pressure.
That's the association.
That's the association, which is not necessarily true.
Correct.
Which, based on what we've learned now, it's not necessarily true. It depends on other factors.
Right.
Right.
So it is true dependent. Right. Okay.
And let's talk about how salt is used, right? First of all, because we use salt every day, right? And we use it to flavor our foods. We use it to, balance the taste, right? Because it has that effect. It helps balance the flavors in whatever you cook. It can often offset the acidity of ingredients, right? You want to reduce the acidity, you use a little bit of salt. It works as a preservative. If you have meats and you want it to last a little longer, like pigtail, for example.
That's a big one in our culture. We'll talk about it later because salt was used to preserve way back in the day before refrigeration.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. But now we're still salting fish. Salt fish is one of the biggest things, and it's just too much of it that we're having in our body. Although we need to boil it all out before we use it, right?
And it's also used as a preservative, right? As you mentioned, way back historically, we know that salt is used to preserve meats and stuff. If you're using it in bread, if you're baking, you put a little bit of salt, but too much of it can I
remember your bread you baked once, and it was so hard.
It can kill the yeast, right?
And what you said, it was, oh my God, I put too much salt.
Yeah.
Your bread was rock hard, but I can't say anything because I don't bake bread, right? So
it also used to strengthen gluten, right? And it can improve the texture of dough by controlling yeast fermentation, which is what happened. I put too much of it, it kills it, right? And then, of course, it has chemical reactions. It plays a role in various chemical reactions that occur during cooking, such as enzymatic browning. It gives cooked foods a desirable color and flavor. It makes the food taste better.
Yes, absolutely it does.
Right?
And so the big question is, how much should you be using salt or should you not be, right? And what we know is that average blood pressure, what's a good blood pressure?
I don't know, 130,
120.
25.
Normal, they say normal is 120/80.
Yeah, that depends on height and weight.
It depends on how healthy you are. It depends on age. It depends on underlying conditions. It depends on
If I
so
see
many
my blood
other
pressure at
things.
130, I'm happy.
Exactly, because you're
I'm a
older.
tall person.
No,
No, you don't have to bring in age in
No.
this now, man. No.
but it does matter. But when somebody says, what's normal blood pressure? They're usually talking 120/80.
Yes.
All right. There's nothing saying that yours has to be that.
Yeah.
But you have
It has
to
to
have
be
a
within a certain
measure,
range.
and then
yeah.
you go higher or lower.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
Then when you actually now eat more salt, what happens with sodium? Sodium draws water to it. So anywhere that you have water, you're going to get sodium, right? And when you have too much water, when you eat too much salt and then you drink a disproportionate amount of water because you're trying now to quench thirst.
Yeah.
And we won't get into the different types of thirst because there's also that. But once your body has the volume of water in the blood is raised, that is the essence of what causes blood pressure.
Okay.
That is why we get high blood pressure, right? And when you have high blood pressure, that's when the heart has to work harder to maintain.
And that's when you need to cut back on salt.
Yes.
Because now you're putting too much sodium into the body. It's going to attract more water. And the heart has to work harder. It's going to force things into the cells, and the pressure builds up. And then...
But here's the interesting thing. And we say this all the time about the human body. What do we say every time on the show?
It's
we say
amazing, whatever it is.
Nothing can compete with the machinery of the human. No AI has come close.
Nothing. It's a remarkable design. Yeah. I don't know who or what did it, but who or what did it. It shows the remarkable intelligence of that entity that created it.
So that intelligence within our body knows how to increase and it knows how to decrease the pressure in the blood.
So
and it does that automatically. There's actually something called pressure Dionysus. Which is the kidneys and how the kidneys filter the fluids from the body.
Okay.
So when you talk about salt, we cannot not talk about the kidneys.
Yeah.
Because any excess fluids that is created must be within the body. All right. It has to be filtered out
through the kidneys.
Through the kidneys, the biggest filtering organ, it passes out. And so the kidneys has more membranes in terms of filtering. That's where most of the work of filtering happens, right? Yeah. And now when this happens, the body has to maintain a level of balance, everything in the body, right? And that's what we call homeostasis. Okay. Homeostasis is just the state of being in balance. All right. So if you have taken in too much sodium, the body, as long as you have normal blood pressure, the body knows how to deal with it. Okay. Right? Through that filtration system. All right. So the kidneys, I'll just spend a little bit of time on the kidneys because they say it filters out 180 liters of fluid.
Wow. Per day?
Per
hour?
Per session.
Okay.
So it happens about 69 times during the day.
During the day,
yes.
69 times.
Yes, but every time it's about 180 liters of fluid.
That's almost
that's
about
right. That's what's filtered out.
That's about 9,000 liters.
Oh, I didn't do the math. I didn't do the math.
Roughly, it's about 10,000.
But guess what?
Yeah.
After it filters that out, guess what it does? It turns around and it reabsorbs almost all of the thing. It reabsorbs 179 liters. It's reabsorbed. What do you think happens to the last liter?
I don't know.
So
you pass it out. You pass it out.
About a liter
per time, or in urine.
That's what you pass out as urine.
So hold on. When the kidney does that, when it filters all of that, good and bad, it filters out.
Right.
It sends it somewhere else to the body.
It passes through the bloodstream, through the pancreas.
And so the liver, the kidney takes it back now.
Yes.
but it's
It's
also
reabsorbed back, but
also-
only the good stuff is reabsorbed.
so the body knows
Absolutely.
the good
Yeah.
stuff that has to take, and the rest just goes out as urine or
Oh, I
feces.
made a mistake. I said 69 times. It's about 60 times, about 60 times per
60.
day.
Yeah, that's
that
still
the
in the
kidney
range.
is
Still in the
still
range of about
doing
nine
their
to
work,
10,000.
right?
9 to 10,000.
For example, glucose. This is how amazing the body is. The body knows that, the kidney knows that glucose is not supposed to get into your urine.
Right.
So what it does, of the 180 grams from the kidneys, 180 gets absorbed. The exact amount gets absorbed back into the kidney because no glucose can escape.
Okay.
Right?
So what happens with the excess glucose?
Excess glucose is filtered within the kidney, within the kidneys. So it's kept and it's not passed into, what do we say? It's filtered in such a way that it doesn't, it's filtered out and brought back in,
Okay.
but it doesn't go like urea and creatinine, two of the other things that we don't want, things that are waste that we don't want. That does not get into the bloodstream,
Okay.
right? So what else do you have?
Well, staying on the topic of salt, we talk about calcium. Did you mention calcium?
I did.
Which is the dominant mineral the
For
body
the
needs,
solid tissue.
for the solid
Right,
tissue.
yeah, and I talked about potassium.
Okay. How much salt do we really need
Okay,
as a human person? How much salt do we need? Right.
well,
The body needs a very small amount.
it's about a teaspoon
Okay.
per day
That's milligrams, right?
because so many of the things in excess salt, right?
Mhm.
Because so many of the things we eat already has salt.
Yes.
So we don't really need to be adding extra salt.
A
But
lot of
if
us
you do, it's not a big problem if your blood pressure is normal, because as I said before, the body will take care of it. For example, the kidneys again. The kidneys filter out 540 grams of sodium,
Mhm.
540 grams on a daily basis. And it's not as if our bodies have so much sodium in it. We don't have 540 grams, but it does it so many times during the day. So that is the total amount that will get circulated
Okay.
within the course of a day.
So what you're saying then, it doesn't matter how much salt we eat. If the body is functioning properly,
it knows how to take care of it.
the human body is intelligent enough to know how much salt is required, and it will balance itself out.
Yes,
It's almost like a thermostat,
precisely.
right?
So for example, if we're just doing 537 grams, if you have eaten 3 grams extra per day of salt,
Yeah.
then instead of filtering 540 grams, it will filter 537 grams will be reabsorbed.
Okay.
Because it makes the adjustment for the 3%.
So the whole notion then, in answering the question, how much salt do you need? That whole notion that you shouldn't be eating a lot of salt, it's only if the body is not well, if the body is not functioning properly. Yes, you should not be eating a lot of salt because it's not capable of filtering all that salt. But if the body is in good health, is in optimum health, it doesn't matter how much salt you eat, the body is going to know what to do with it. Basically, that's all.
So if your blood pressure is raised, there are some reasons. Because probably one of the biggest things is the insulin resistance. If you're insulin resistant, if your metabolic rate, the metabolic syndrome is high, then if you have if your diet has too much carbohydrates, too much sugar,
so there's a lot of factors that will determine.
too little fat.
Yes.
If you don't exercise enough.
Yes.
If you don't sleep enough.
If you're drinking and smoking too much, all those things will determine how the body filters the salt.
How it reacts.
How it reacts.
To the salt intake, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Can we go to some email?
Oh, yes,
All right,
they've
let's
started
go
to
to
come
some
in.
Yeah, the email is coming in now. So let me
Before you
start.
go to emails, let me ask you personally, Frederick.
Don't ask me no personal question.
Personally, what is your salt intake like?
Not as much as yours. No. We're gonna argue on that. Nothing. Okay.
Because I do more salt, you do more sugar.
Not I don't do as much sugar now.
I
No,
know.
I used to do
Okay.
it.
I do more salt.
Yeah.
But again, we have switched. We're going to talk about that soon.
Yeah.
We've switched and we're using a brand of Himalayan pink
Yeah, we'll
salt.
talk about that. Yes.
And it's, to me, even if I use a little bit, the food just tastes so much saltier. But
no, you don't use a little bit of salt. No.
Wait, go ahead. Email.
Okay, our first email came in from Tim.
Mhm.
And this was
Oh, he was talking about your
a
message.
comment on the what you call it, the email campaign that we send out prior to the show. And he said, "Love Fred's message. He is so cool."
Okay.
Right.
And I'm glad he
much.
listens to instructions
Thank you
because that
very
was
much.
my idea to do the videos because videos are so much more interesting.
I don't like videos.
Videos are so much more interesting than the spoken word, you know.
Here's one from Irene, and she says,
The
"Hello,
written word.
Cox family. This will be a very good topic today. So much salt in our foods, and folks do not realize it.
Mhm.
Good choice to discuss this."
Okay.
Okay.
And again, thanks to Cameron for making the suggestion.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Irene. Here's one from Carl, and Carl says, "Janet is right regarding Black History Month. Don't get me wrong, we should remember and celebrate all of the great Black people and culture that have shaped this world in a positive way. But there's no White History Month, Jewish History Month, Muslim History Month, Asian History Month, etc. Let's just celebrate individual days for great Black people. Thank you for letting me share my opinion from Boston, Massachusetts." Well, right. Carl, I'm not going to get into that. I'd love to answer it, but this is a health show. And there are reasons why there are not certain things done the way you would like it to be done. And there's a reason why Black history ought to be celebrated and ought to be recognized as playing an important role in world history. And
because it was ignored. It started because there was a need for it. It was totally ignored in the decades prior. Now I think we've caught up or catching up.
Yes.
And therefore it's too much to just be relegated to the 1 month.
Yeah, and that's...
We need to, as all people, we need to celebrate our past.
Yeah.
We need to talk about our future. We need to celebrate our future. And we need to anticipate
the future.
The future. I mean, the
celebrate the present.
And anticipate the future. Yeah. And we got that from our friend Garfield.
Yeah. And so that's what I'll say on that.
Okay.
Because this is a health show. I don't want to get into that. Here's one from Frank. The best salt-free potato chips, unsalted.
Oh, you know what? I love Miss Vickers. Is it Vicky's or Vickers? I always thought it was Vickers.
That's the one he just said there.
Yeah, I thought it was the entire time I always called it Vickers.
Yeah, Miss Vicky.
But it's Vicky's chips.
I don't like them. They're too hard.
I love them.
Too tough on the gums.
They're the best.
Too tough on the gums. Bob says, "Happy Family Day, Coxes. This is a very good subject today. Excessive salt is a detriment to the human body." Janet explained it very well. I'm a dietitian. Thank you. And thank you very much for that, Bob. Okay. Here's one from Andrew, and then we'll get back to our show. If your blood pressure is within normal limitations, excessive salt is okay. And that's what we said, right?
Yes, right.
But if you continue to eat excessive salt, your blood pressure over time will rise considerably, and you will have a problem. It happened to me. Love this show. Now, he's kind of right there, but he is right. But it will only raise if you have other conditions. You have underlying conditions.
But then,
if you're in optimum health, the body is going to know what to do with that excessive salt that you're taking. Listen, if the food doesn't taste good to you, there's nothing wrong with taking a little bit more salt. It will only affect you if your health is not.
Well, listen to what he said in the email, though. Yeah. But he had a big but. But if you continue to eat excessive salt, your blood pressure over time, and that is key, will rise.
But what is excessive salt?
Let me explain why that is a true statement.
Okay.
Because when you do your blood test and you look at the results, you have the GFR rate.
Yeah.
And that GFR, I always have trouble saying it.
It's a big word.
No, it's not that big. Glomerular filtration rate,
Glomerular
filtration rate.
Yeah,
I don't know why I have problems with
because
that
you
word.
can't read.
And the rate at which it's the inflation rate should be 90.
Yes,
And if it's at 90 or above, you will have no worries
Right.
about salt,
right.
right?
That's
Excess
what
salt,
I'm
the
saying.
body
The
will
body
get
has to
rid
be
of it.
functioning
we've
properly.
we've
Yeah.
said that. But that is the amount of fluid that the kidneys can filtrate safely,
Yeah.
right? But if you are, if you're, let's see, 10 grams of sodium every day,
Mhm.
if you eat that, which is 4 teaspoons,
That's a lot.
right? Which the blood, we talked about that. The kidneys rather will filter the 540 grams.
Yes.
And so if you have 10 over, it will filter out 530, which will take care of the 10%
Yes.
extra that you had, right? But if your GFR rate is
Below
lower,
90. Yes.
that's when you start running into problems.
That's what I said. It means
Because
the body's
now-
not functioning properly.
Yeah,
So you're
because
going to have that
now
problem.
your body will need help.
You're going to need help.
And that it gets so bad that the kidneys completely shut
It
down.
shuts down.
And that's when we need
Right. But that's when you need the blood pressure pills and stuff like that.
pills.
Right.
Well, even if you need the blood pressure pills before to help, but when it completely shuts down, that's when you have to go on the
The
dialysis machine.
dialysis
Right?
machine.
Okay.
But it's not just salt that causes that to happen, which we'll get into a little if we have enough time.
It's
Stress.
Thank you. I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Certain hormones.
Yeah.
If you have stress, and we know about stress, we talked about stress,
Yeah.
relationship stress anyway. And no, folks, we did not, after last week's show.
No, we did not need a counselor.
Right.
Who have asked that question?
But probably for next week, who knows, right? But stress tells the body if we need about the blood pressure.
Yes.
All right. And it tells the kidneys that does it need to filter out more.
And if the stress is ongoing,
Mhm.
or if it's short term, the kidney is going to shut down for a little while.
Yes.
Right?
And if it's chronic,
If it's chronic, it's
then
going
the
to shut
effect on
down
the kidneys
forever.
is going to be much
Right.
more.
And that's when you go
Yeah.
on a dialysis.
So it's the stress. It's regulated by the sympathetic nervous system, which is that hormone we talk about all the time, the one that says fight or
Yeah.
flight,
Fight or flight, yeah.
that system. And that then tells the adrenal glands to release epinephrine, which causes the restriction, vasoconstriction. And that helps to raise the blood pressure, right? It tightens up the filters in the kidneys, and the kidneys begin to close down temporarily,
Mhm.
as you just said.
Yeah.
If it's
It's a short term.
it will
Short-term
close down
stress.
short term, yes.
Yes.
And if it's chronic, that's when you have the longer problem.
But
So
hold on before you go further. So somebody who goes to the doctor, and then the doctor diagnoses, well, okay, you have some kidney
Mhm.
problems. The doctor doesn't go beyond that
Mhm.
diagnosis to see
Mhm.
what's causing the kidney problems. They immediately put you on.
well, depends on your doctor, of course,
Yeah.
because yes, there's so much to the research, but what your doctor will look at is that your
Should look at.
should look at. I think you have some notes there about the blood pressure pills and what they actually do.
Yes.
What do they actually do?
The blood pressure pills are good for, in my opinion, short term, right? Short term, because what it does, these are medicines that they remove extra water and sodium from the body.
Mhm.
So there's less fluid that will be flowing through the veins and the arteries, and they reduce the pressure on the walls of the blood vessels.
So the blood vessels actually need help.
They need help.
And that's what the blood pressure medication does.
Yeah.
But what the doctors do is they say, once you get on this medication, you're on it for life.
Precisely.
And that is what I think. Again, we're not doctors, but
But that's bad advice.
I think that is, you shouldn't be on anything for life.
No, the minute you
Because
tell
if
a
you-
patient that, number one, you raise the stress level.
Yeah.
They start to worry. Okay, I got to take this for life. If they miss,
Or they stop doing
dose.
the right things for the
Yeah.
body to take care of it because
and
they're going to
become
rely
dependent,
on
become
this.
dependent
Yes.
on
Right.
this medication, and that's in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's where I think it's bad.
So when the kidneys are compromised and it doesn't have the capacity to do the regulation as it does, then then sodium, the salt, can make things worse by helping to raise the blood pressure, right? So the bottom line is that salt, folks, does not cause, it's not the cause
It's
of
not the
blood
cause of
pressure,
high blood pressure.
but it certainly can exacerbate
Yes.
if you have the conditions that Fred talks about,
Yeah.
as we mentioned, if you're insulin resistant,
Yeah.
etc. Right? But if you're going to add salt to your food, it should not be a problem. Your
Shouldn't be
food
a
should
problem.
taste good.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, when it comes to, well, we talk about excessive salt, right?
Yeah.
And another thing that it does, people with what you call it, ulcers, right? They should avoid salt,
Yes.
excessive salt.
And the reason for that, because in the gut, we always come back to the gut, but in the gut, there is a lining
Right.
that protects it.
A mucus lining.
Yes.
Okay.
And when that lining has punctures, when it has holes,
And you got a leaky gut.
like when you have ulcers
Yeah.
or the gastritis diseases, right? That's because the hydrochloric acid that is needed in the gut is being watered down, then it's dissipated.
Right. And
that doesn't allow the mucus lining to stay intact.
Okay.
And that's what causes the ulcers.
And it causes what they call it, helicobacter.
Yes.
Right?
It's a form of bacteria.
Yes. To thrive in that area.
Yes.
Because you know,
then the hydrochloric acid cannot do what it was intended to do, and then you get a proliferation of this bacteria.
Okay.
And that's why people end up with, for years, 20 years, unless you can find out what the problem is. See, the body has to be given a chance to find out what is needed. And that's why the doctors are important.
Yes.
Because they have to tell us what it is that is needed in the body. But the thing is, they don't give the body enough chance to help itself. Instead of saying, drink more water, doing whatever it is, they always rely so many times on the medication. Because the medication is fast.
Yes.
And it will solve the
short
problem,
term.
but it will also create so many others.
Now, another thing that I didn't realize until today, even though I knew that you should not be doing that, because our parents would always tell us that, is drinking water while you're eating.
Oh, I went to a high school, Westwood, and it was a girls' high school. They were supposed to graduate ladies. They actually taught us how to use the knives and forks and which one, from right to left, etc. And we were never allowed to drink water during our meals. But again, there's two schools of thought.
Yeah.
Some people say you should drink the water so that you feel a little full, so you won't eat too much.
But that's drinking before, not during.
To drink immediately before or during,
right? So
that you get that feeling of satiated, so you feel full.
But what I learned,
and therefore you don't need to eat too much.
Yeah, but what I learned while doing this research, by drinking water while you're eating, you are compromising the hydrochloric acid, and as a result, your food is not going to be digested properly, because the Helicobacter pylori is allowed to thrive in the body. Right. And that's what causes problem.
Now, the big thing about salt is that everybody is different. Everybody's body is different. There is no cookie cutter solution for this. And so for Cameron, who had asked about salt, can we address that in particular?
Yeah. What was the question again?
It was, for example, here, salt consumption by culture.
Right.
Go ahead.
Now, research was done, and we found out about this during the research. But this was done in England, that most of the salt consumed by people of Black African descent is from salt added in cooking and or table salt.
That's right.
A health survey in England found that 83% of Black men and 85% of Black women added salt in cooking.
I just thought everybody did.
Me too. Right?
I had no idea that some people
28% of the same population add salt to the table. Salted meats.
While they're eating, right?
Salted meats, salt fish, salt beef. And that's something that our culture, we eat a lot of it.
Put in the salt beef.
And heavily seasoned meats, such as fried chicken, stews, and curries, can contain a lot of salt.
That's
You
right.
you go into the supermarkets now, go into the ethnic section, or
Mhm.
go to any West Indian store. There's a lot of seasoning salt,
Yes.
where the main ingredient is salt.
Yes, and then what we do, look at our son Kofi. He will, when he cooks,
Yeah.
because
Put more salt.
he does believe it's cheaper to eat out than to cook because of the prices at the grocery store. But anyway, he will cook with the seasoned salt
Yeah.
and the salt
Yeah.
and the garlic salt
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
the whatever,
Yeah.
right? Salt on top of salt.
Right.
Now, what Cameron was alluding to when he asked the question,
Is how do you get rid of the salt?
he said he talked about the processed foods. And what we found is that what we just talked about, there's a contrast with the Western world where up to 80% of the salt intake actually comes from the packaged foods.
Yeah. Processed
All right.
foods.
From processed or packaged foods,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's in a can, like salmon is good, but if it's in a can, it's
Yeah.
gonna be too much salt.
Corned beef.
Those
right.
things, right? Even your ham,
Yep.
once it's cured,
It's gonna have a lot
it's
of
going
salt
to have
because they're
more
using
salt
salt to
to
preserve
cure.
the meat.
Yes.
So there's a lot of how do you get rid of that?
right?
Except for ham, processed ham that you buy in, like the
Mhm.
Christmas time, you get a big chunk of ham
Or can
that you
ham
can
and so on.
boil out.
Mhm.
The cold cut meats and stuff like that, you can't take the salt out.
Mhm.
It's there. So you're gonna have to look for cold cuts that are not heavily salted.
But as long as it's cold cuts, it's not good,
Yeah, it
because
has a
it's
lot of sodium.
processed,
Has a lot of sodium.
right? And not just sodium, it's just gonna have a lot of the other
A lot of
additives,
other chemicals.
preservatives, etc.
Yeah.
It's
So
what
how
the
do
worst
they-
foods.
How do you cut down on the salt?
The
All right?
whole idea is to buy fresh.
Yeah. Choose
Right?
fresh meats instead of
Yeah.
packaged food.
Mhm. And if you're even doing frozen vegetables,
right.
you should choose the ones that say freshly frozen, like the flash frozen.
Yeah.
And not the ones that it's in butter, or the ones that they have seasoning salt or
Yeah.
something.
That's
added
another
to
thing.
it.
You go into the
Mhm.
butcher store now, like we have one right across the
Mhm.
street. You go in there are a lot of seasoned meats that they're selling.
I don't buy them for one
Me too.
reason.
Because I don't think the seasoning is any good.
I don't buy them because I don't think they wash the meat. I don't know, I could be wrong, but
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm just thinking, did they wash that meat the way I would? And
Okay.
therefore, that's my reasoning.
Yeah.
But then again,
Also, if you're someone that like to eat out, like
Mhm.
our son loves to eat out, just ask the waiter to request from the chef to reduce the amount of salt that he can put in the
But
food.
somebody like Kofi's not going to have a problem because he's young,
Yeah.
strong, healthy, exercises, works hard.
Yeah.
I
So
hope
he's
listening.
relatively healthy.
He's healthy.
Yeah.
And therefore he's not going to have the problem. So if he goes out and eats out and he has the salt the way they've done it, then it's not going to be a problem, at least not for a while, right? And you can also, if you're buying the seasoning, if you actually read the package, some of them, it should not list sodium on
Yeah.
the label, or
Yeah.
definitely, if it does have sodium, it should not be the first ingredient, right?
See what percentage of
Yeah.
sodium.
Mhm.
Read the labels. A lot of people are doing that now. Read the labels and check the sodium content. Right now, what happens if you eat
If
low
you have-
sodium?
If you have,
There are lots of people out
Mhm.
there. They are on a heavy diet
Mhm.
that calls for no sodium at all.
like the keto diet, I
Yeah.
think. If people do the keto diet, which is high in protein and fat, then they're getting less sodium.
Mhm.
That can be a problem.
And
right.
what kind of
If you have
salt loss?
if the body's not in homeostasis, so whether it's too much or too little, then it's a problem,
Okay.
right? And too little, that's when you can have cramps,
Mhm.
right?
Like
that
what
was
used to happen to
shock.
me.
You can
Yeah.
end up in a coma.
Yeah,
You
and you can die.
actually die
You can
with-
die. Yeah.
right.
You can die because it's not within that range of, what is it, 135 to 145 MEG. I don't know what that stands
Mhm.
for, per liter. I know what that stands for,
Oh, okay.
right? So that could lead to, severe shock, like you said. Okay. And we talked about the high blood pressure pills.
But yes, what about the types of salt though? Because there are so many types of salts out there,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And I know we used to use the white iodized table salt. And For people who have the iodine, lack of iodine.
Yeah, if you live in a
that's
region where the soil doesn't have a lot of iodine in it, then it's necessary to
correct.
have that, to use the table salt that has a lot of iodine.
But
'Cause
most
it helps with the thyroid and
Mhm.
help with the
Mhm.
some other part of the throat in that area.
But most, if you talk to probably 10 dietitians,
Mhm.
they will probably tell you to stay away from that type of salt and instead to use something like the pink or the black Himalayan salt.
Yeah.
What's the difference between those two salts?
The black, I never knew you had black Himalayan salt
Yeah.
until I started to do this
Right.
research,
Mhm.
right? It is said that it contains iron sulfite,
Mhm.
which gives the salt that crystal, the salt crystals that dark brown, purple looking color.
Mhm.
And it has sulfur compounds to provide a hydrogen sulfide smell. So it has a distinct smell, and it has that color that is distinct from the others. And then you have the pink salt, which we use a
Himalayan
lot.
pink salt, yeah.
Himalayan, that has become very popular. It's among the world's top 3 locations where it is extracted from, in the Himalayas, Pakistan, and in India. Those 3 areas have, you know, an abundance of it. It is often large grained, and it contains up to 5% impurities.
I didn't realize salt had anything else in it but salt.
Me too.
But so that was a
Yeah,
big
the
eye
minerals.
opener for me,
Yeah.
because some salts have most, if you were to compare the Himalayan, the best salts with the table salt,
Yeah.
there's only about a 2.5% difference.
Yes.
But the 2.5% difference is all about the trace minerals in the salt.
Yes.
And so the table salt does not have that.
Correct.
So we're talking about the better salts, the Celtic salt,
Yeah, the
that
sea
has
salt.
the
Yeah.
sea salt,
Yeah.
that has the trace minerals. And we're talking about magnesium and a bunch of others.
I never knew about Celtic salt either, right? Apparently, this is hand-harvested sea salt.
Yeah.
And it has all 3 types of magnesium, chloride, bromide, and sulfate.
And
And it's gray in color.
because of the magnesium.
Right.
Yeah.
And
And it is actually, if you go on YouTube and you look how to rehydrate, how to get your body rehydrated very quickly.
Celtic
If
salt.
you use a Celtic salt, like about a gram, not a gram, oh God, a bit of the size of a seed, like a sesame seed.
Yeah.
If you were to put that on your tongue, drink some water, it goes directly, brings water directly into the cells.
Okay.
And that's your quickest way to rehydrate.
So it's not drinking a lot of water necessarily is going to do it.
Because you see,
The
when
salt
we
has the
drink,
sodium that attracts water.
right, when we drink water, it's like people say, oh my gosh, I don't like to drink water because I just have to go pee so frequently. Or they drink water and they're still not feeling hydrated. And that's because the water is not really getting where it's needed. It's not getting into the cells, right? And that is why you get that feeling in and out.
Also because we drink too much of it one time,
Mhm.
right? Like you were telling me about the research you were doing, where it says that you should drink water like how nature provides
Oh yes,
rain,
I love that.
rain to the earth. It doesn't fall all the time,
Yeah.
but when it does, you know, it's enough to nourish the earth.
Right. Instead of drinking water like you would 2-3 glasses at once, or a whole glass just before you go to bed, for example. No. Instead, have a little now, half a glass now. In a little while, have another half a glass. Because just like how you don't like a tornado, that's the same effect that water will have if you drink too much.
You don't want to flood.
Where we
flood.
talked.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me just go to some more email because we have quite a few. Here's one from Kelly. And Kelly says, Fred, your video message is amazing. Well done. Excellent. I like salt, but there's already salt on most foods. Time to cut down. Listening to you from Ottawa, Ontario, home of the Liptards.
But
Okay.
oh my goodness. Well, we're apolitical, right?
And Steve says, hello, Coxes. For not being medical professionals, you sure sound like it. Excellent advice and dialogue. Thank you, Doctors Fred and Janet.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll take it.
Thank you, Steve. Bill says, we love you, Coxes. Oh, yes, we do. We love what you tell us about our food. And what's that?
If you didn't tell us, we'd puke Oh, Coxes, we
We
love
love
you.
you.
Okay, that's his
Oh,
poem.
that's a poem. Oh,
That's the
okay.
poem. Oh my
Our
God.
poem
You're-
for you. Okay, I didn't
You're
get
such
that.
a slow learner, Frederick,
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
And
dear.
Steve says, hey, Coxes, for cold cuts, you can boil the meat for a few minutes, he meant minutes there,
Mhm.
and cool them. Then get rid of a lot of sodium in the processed cold cuts. I wonder how it tastes when you do that.
Yeah, because if you were to boil cold, I know you do that with sausages.
Yeah,
I know with sausages, I always boil the sausage before I put it in the air fryer,
yeah.
right? Mhm.
Someone wrote, Gloria says, Coxes, this is the only thing the pink Himalayan salt is good for.
Oh, that's a salt lamp.
Yeah, the salt lamp.
How does that work? I'm not sure how
We
the
have
salt
one
lamp.
downstairs, and I
Is it
find,
supposed to emit something
yeah,
beneficial?
I really don't know. I find, I don't know. I can't say, but I know other than the usage of the lamp, it's a very good salt because it has a lot of minerals in it. And that's why, we use it.
Mhm.
Okay,
So
so
the best thing about salt is that it is the main transport, it's the main transport system of glucose into the bloodstream and water into the cells. That's why we need salt. Too much table salt, it can actually kill your taste buds.
Yes.
I did not know that either. Right? But if you're, I'm gonna tell you to go look for that Celtic salt. I'd like to try it
yeah,
myself.
I'm going to try it. I'm going to check
Because
what health food
they
store.
say it just makes the food taste more flavorful. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's true or not, but right. And so, just the way in which calcium, we talked about calcium before, back to the human body being such a fantastic machine. Everything is dependent on something else.
Yes.
That's why nutrition is so important, because you need calcium, for example, as we said, is needed for so many tissues in the body. And if you don't have vitamin D, for example,
Yeah.
right? Vitamin D is needed to get calcium into the cells, right? And then all the other minerals that we take, they piggyback on the calcium
Okay.
to get the right into the cells, right? And we need these things, we need all of these things for energy, because it's all about energy. The body needs energy to work,
function. Yeah.
to function,
It needs it.
right?
Isn't it
Even
amazing?
breathing,
Yeah. It's a which we take for granted.
which, yes,
But that takes a lot of energy.
just your regular breathing,
Yeah.
but your
Diaphragmatic breathing
Right.
is the best.
when they say
way.
go hug a tree and breathe, that's
Yeah.
what they mean,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
But we take this structure that we call body, we take
Mhm.
it for granted. We abuse it. We do all manner of things for it. We dress it up for it so it can look nice and do all kinds of stuff. But if we were only to take a few moments
Mhm.
to really delve into the intricate workings of the human body,
Mhm.
we would be amazed. A lot of us will become a lot healthier.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, there's nothing that man has built
Mhm.
that is not replicated on the human body.
I agree.
Nothing.
And that's what AI is. They're
Yeah.
using these systems.
Yeah.
And there is so much to figure out. What we have figured out as doctors, as science researchers, it's just a fraction.
Yeah.
In every area of the
Study.
body. They know what certain cells do, but then I think they know less about things than
And
what
they're
they do
beginning,
know.
they've come a long way. Medical science have come a long way. And a lot of things that we took for granted, where we would go to a doctor and just listen to what the doctor told us and follow. People are not doing that any longer. People are doing their research, and that's what this show is all about.
Yeah.
Do the research, encourage people to go do your own research. It's your health, it's your body. And be proactive. Be
Right.
proactive with your health.
For example, if you're feeling really weak and tired, you really should check your salt
level.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the first signs that something is wrong with your salt. And your body, again, actually knows. If you're feeling thirsty, there is a reason for it, right? And therefore, your body knows you need to drink more water.
Right.
Or
And so
fluids.
that's one of the advantage of consuming salt, because the level of the acidity in the stomach is dependent on how much salt that you take in, right? Inadequate amounts could lead to pathogenic putrefaction complication in the body, that process.
So,
protein digestion,
Mhm.
meat, fish, and eggs, and poor fat absorption explains, if you're not enough salt in the body, those things kind of break down properly.
So to summarize, because we're getting to the end of the show already, to summarize, if you're an athlete, if you're a baby, if no matter who you are, you need salt for energy in the body. You need it for your mental and physical. You need it mentally for mental cognition.
Mhm.
You need it for physical activity.
Yeah.
You need it as you age. If you're going to age well, too much salt is going to be a problem if you have those conditions, and as well as too little, right? So you need to know that your fluids are regulated, right? And again, we talk about salt. Probably next week we should talk about sugar. Not that we aren't.
It's not
We've talked about,
no.
yeah, but
No, we're not going to talk about sugar because you're going to, no. You're going to throw me under the bus.
Yeah.
No.
But apparently with salt, we think about salt as the body, the fluid, the blood. But one of the areas that is most critical in terms of the control of salt is actually in the brain.
Yes.
And they have something called the blood-brain barrier, because the brain is like the creme de la creme of the organs.
Yes.
Because it has to be protected. And so this blood-brain barrier, it's like it prevents anything that's unsolicited, anything that's unwanted.
It's like the border guards.
Like the border guards.
Preventing illegal immigrants from coming
in.
But they can still sneak in.
There are areas
Yeah.
that they can sneak in.
Okay.
And it's too technical to get into. We would really have to go do the medical training.
Yes.
But the bottom line is, through the areas where it's a little weak,
Yeah.
it allows tiny microscopic particles to
Prevent.
filtrate
Right.
the brain. And one of those is to do with salt.
And that could lead to dementia.
Yes, because again, if the salt gets in, if there's not enough salt in the brain, then the brain cells shrink.
Yes.
And then the function is compromised, and that's when you get the diseases.
And once the brain cells shrink
like
and die, they
dementia,
cannot be
etc.
replaced.
But also the opposite is also true, because if you get too much salt in the brain, then it begins to swell.
Yeah.
And that's what this swelling on the brain, that's another whole other set of complications, right? So I think we've come to the end of our discussion, unless you have anything else to add.
Not really. Again, it's it's fascinating. The more we do these research, is the more the greater the understanding that we have of the body and how it really functions. And when you really understand how the body functions, it really forces you to take stock of the way you're living your health, take stock of your lifestyle, make certain changes that will avoid complications if you don't do the right thing. And that's basically all it is.
The bottom line is, folks, we need to know what our blood pressure level is.
Yes.
And you need to know, is that good enough for your body, for your situation?
Yeah.
Is that blood pressure good for you? And something that always gets kids laughing is when you tell them that their pee is just blood that has been filtered, because they don't get it.
They don't get it.
But that's exactly what it is, right? Because it's what do they call it? Osmolarity, which is a concentration of salt in the blood. So we have to make sure that we maintain the balance of the salt in the bloodstream.
Yeah.
And that's why the kidneys, the pancreas, all the other organs that do the filtration, that's why we need to drink water. That's why we need to sleep. That's why we need to eat right, so we can get the nutrition from the food to help the various minerals and chemicals do their work.
And we have to avoid stress at all costs.
Yes, definitely.
Avoid stress, because stress is a big factor in sickness. Huge factor.
Probably one of the biggest.
So I have to get rid of you.
That's my line. You're copying it. Okay, so that's it for me.
That's it. What time do we have? 28 minutes after the hour. We have a couple of minutes. So during that couple of minutes, I would like to once again remind people that, folks, if you have not tried our Liquid Green products, look, it is essential. It is important that you visit liquidgreenproducts.com, visit our website, take a look at what we have. These are products that are absolutely safe, much safer than what you're probably using right now. It will remove all of the toxic residue in your house, clean your home properly without leaving a toxic footprint. And there's a code, LGHS 101. Use it. Enjoy the discount that we are offering. Liquidgreenproducts.com. That is where you should go. All right. So with that said, we just have a few seconds left, and I would like to end today's show once again by saying, you go ahead, read it.
Yes, I'd like to read this today. It says, in conclusion, it's essential to remember that good health is at the core of human happiness and overall well-being. It plays a pivotal role in contributing to prosperity, wealth, and even economic progress. To me, all that means the same. As healthy individuals, we enhance our productivity and may even extend our lives. So until we reconvene next Sunday, same time, same station, prioritize your well-being. This is Janet and Fred saying, let's stay healthy on Reality Radio 101.
Have a wonderful family day, everyone. Amen.
Thank you for listening to the Liquid Green Health Show with your hosts, Fred and Janet Cox, right here on Reality Radio 101.